Hello and welcome to the channel. Thank you for joining me again. This would be part 14, I do believe, of the Micra ZX9R build. And I've had quite a busy day today, actually. Started early on this morning, and it's currently 10 past midnight. So, yeah, got some good work done. Now, if you notice, the front of the vehicle here has no brace on it anymore. It doesn't need one. Luckily, well, not luckily, that's the way I built it. The brace that was on the front was temporary to keep the engine in the right plane so that I could build the other engine mounts. That's now been done, so that it was no longer needed. That's been taken off. What I've done over here is taken the rubber mount, the old gearbox mount, out of here by cutting the end off, flattening that piece of metal out, drilling a hole through it, and then welding it onto the bracket. So you can see here, that weld is looking pretty good. That's probably the best weld I've done. So yeah, my welding's getting better using the settings on. Not there's many settings on the welder, but using the settings on the welder better and getting better welds, cleaning the areas up and everything. So yeah, that's coming on leaps and bounds. This brace here it's just been bolted through the cross member at the moment where these two flanges meet. I am going to put a little bit more material on here so that it doesn't break through. There shouldn't be much load going through here though, because most of the fore and aft load will be taken up by the mount underneath, the mount on this side, and the brace that's here as well. So this is literally just to stop this from moving around here, and it's triangulated the front of the car, so that's now moving the car around, so that's absolutely rock solid. The other things I've done up here, this entire brace was taken out, took it out of the car and welded another brace in at the bottom here around that tube. So there's some more metal on there now. There's like 3 layers of metal with 3 layers of weld, all going through to the tube at the bottom there, so it can't physically move. It didn't move when I took it off, but it didn't look brilliant. So I've made that a lot stronger now, and I have since stood on here whilst I was trying to get a bolt through there. So I have stood on this, not moving anywhere. I've stood on that, and I've stood here just to test it. Again, nothing moving. Doesn't move an inch. So we're good. On the back here, if you can see there, this was just a flat bit of metal that was under there. So what I've done is this piece was welded from the factory that made these pieces on the seats I was using for spare metal. That little weld on this side there is from the factory, so I've left that there and then used the tube to weld to the square tube there, and then welded this piece to the square tube as well and all the way around. So there's a continuous weld going this way, and there's also a continuous weld going up the back here as well. So that's now nice and strong. Because obviously the engine's moved, I had to move these mounts. And I did the same here, moved the mount. However, on this one, there wasn't enough room to do what I did on this side. So this one is just a flat piece of metal with a hole in it. The little washer there will be replaced with another flat piece of metal with, or a flat tab with a hole in it, going down to the diff cradle when that's in. And I've ordered a 45 tooth sprocket, just a generic steel sprocket with is it 520 chain dimensions? I don't know what to call it, but I've ordered a front sprocket as well, a 14 tooth. So it'll be 1445 gearing, and then obviously when finances get better, I can order a chain that matches. So it doesn't really matter what's on it at the minute. That's all changing. So that's bolted through. It's all been taken off and painted. We've now got a spacer between, or a brace that goes across from this mount to the rear mount over there, so that these two are now tied together this way. This plate is tied together diagonally to the back plate, and then this one, and this one are all welded together to this and this plate. So like I said, I've stood on here. My welding's getting better. There's a nice continuous, ignore that bit's not very good. Nice continuous bead across there, and they're very nicely welded together. Same underneath, same on the ends. Everywhere is now solidly welded all the way around. In fact, I was doing so much welding today, big chunk there, that getting halfway down this one, the welder overheated. So I've had to call it a day, and then I took it off and painted it. It's painted in weld through primer, so I can continue to weld stuff to it if need be. If we come down here and go to this point looking backwards, this 3mm plate here is, again, you can see where it's welded up there and at the back. And then you've got the old wheel nuts as spacers, with a dome head nut on this one, so that I don't catch myself and cut myself. I've ground off all the corners and edges and everything, just so there's no sharp bits. All the edges and everything have been nicely ground down, so that I don't cut myself. I'm going to cut this stud off as well once I get the length correct, and there's no more moving around or any jiggery pokery. I'll cut this off, and I'll replace these 17mm standard nuts with either nylock ones, or I may, what I may do is drill a hole through them and wire lock them together, so that they can't come undone with vibrations. So you can see there, if you look back, you can see the cross section of the two bars there that are welded together. Yes, there's a big hole there. Again, like I said, I hadn't finished this piece before the welder overheated. However, that hole is it's where the bottom of the bar had a hole drilled in it, and I've welded it and it's blown through, or burnt through. So it's welded three sides around the bar at the top. These two here are welded directly to the plate, which are welded all the way around, and then that one is welded to these two all the way around as well. So yeah, the end of that bar isn't welded fully to the plate yet. However, it is welded in a roundabout way to all of the stuff in there. That's never going to move. Regardless of that hole, it will never ever move. In fact, some of the tacks I did earlier, just to tack stuff in place, it was an absolute bugger of a job to try and break them apart, bending the metal rather than actually breaking the tacks. So must have done a good job. Again, this stud here is getting cut off at the back and short at the front, sorry, and shortened at the back, so that, and then Loctited or wire locked together, so that they don't vibrate undone. Plenty of space for the oil filter. I can get my finger in there now. Again, because it's hard mounted, that ain't going to move. So it doesn't matter how close that is, really. It's not going to move, so no problem at all. And again, this is now, I've stood on that as well, and that won't move. Going under the car, you can see I've got the north-south bar all fitted in there with some new bolts. The old ones were knackered old rusty Nissan ones, so I've replaced those with some nice shiny ones, some grade 8 bolts that were the correct thread and size. So they've now been put in. What I did have to do is, if you have a look under there's a big chunk of the north-south bar missing to go around the side of the engine. What I'm going to do is, on the inside of this, I'm going to run a bar on the inside just to strengthen it a little bit so it doesn't twist or allow the cross member at the front to move backwards and forwards. I'm going to lower it down onto its wheels tomorrow to get a proper eye in on the drive shaft angles, and the reason for that is I've used the drive shaft here on the north-south bar with my chain guide on the drive shaft there to get a rough idea of how big a 45 tooth sprocket is, and there's plenty of room. So the drive shaft itself is not 100% in the right location, like I said. So what I'm going to do is lower it onto its wheels and then try and hang the drive shaft off this bar in the right location, and then do some measurements and try and find out how big a diff I can actually fit in there, because it's not just the drive shaft and the sprocket I've got to fit in there as well. I've got to fit a differential, and the cage has got to go in there. Luckily though, if you see that hole there and that hole there, sorry, that hole there and there's another one under there, that's where the rear engine mount was for the Nissan Micra engine, which is this one here. Now I'm not going to use that one, however that brace, the fore and aft brace, has reinforcement here specifically for that mount. So I can use these two holes to mount the differential to, partly, and then brace it against where the steering rack is. I can go from here, build two tabs up, and then weld to those tabs, or even drill straight through the firewall and put a plate on the back, and then bring it back up to this bar, and then go from the two mounting holes that are at the bottom of the engine here to the cradle as well, so it'll all be triangulated. That's the way I will go for the minute, and then obviously once it's bolted together and it's not moving, and I can turn the wheels and the chain is on and everything's connected together, then I will start looking at extra bracing if needed. At the moment, I don't think it will need any. However, it has been known for me to be wrong, so it will do at the moment, with the caveat of I'll probably need to do some more after. Yeah, so that's me for the minute. It's a very short video today because although I've spent a long time on the vehicle today, I haven't actually spent a long time, done different things. I've done the one thing, and that is the engine mounting brackets and cradles. You see a reflection of my shoulder in there. So yeah, you've got all the information from today's video, from today's work, to go on for before the next one, and I'll see if I can get uploaded and edited and everything before I go to bed. Like I say, it's gone midnight now. It's like 20 past midnight, so I'll see what I can get uploaded today. Please do like and share and subscribe if you are not already subscribed. It does help myself, and it also helps the build go a little bit quicker. Not for any monetary reasons. I'm not earning any money from these videos. It's more for an impetus to carry on. If people are enjoying the videos, I will quite happily create more and do more work in order for people to watch the build and potentially get some information on how not to put a motorcycle engine in a Micra. Yeah, I think that's it for now. Like I say, there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of stuff that needs clearing up. However, I've got the majority of the hard stuff, the wiring, the vehicle wiring, and the engine mounting sorted. I didn't mention this, did I? There's a gap under here. This is the crossbar that goes across the back there. There's a gap under here, and the reason that gap is there is because obviously all the geometry's changed and it's no longer on rubber mounts. There's a solid mount here with the spacers in it, and because it's lifted the mounts up slightly. Obviously, they've had to be moved around to get the engine back in the right location again. However, what's happened is it's created a gap under this what's the word I'm looking for? Horizontal mount bar here. Luckily, well, not luckily, actually, I measured it. There's a spacer like this one, in fact, that fits under there. It's not this one, the other one's on the side somewhere. This is another offcut. If I lay it on its side, it will fit under there. But yeah, so that will go under there. The problem being at the moment is that I don't have a bolt long enough to go all the way through the chassis rail. So what I'm going to have to use is, excuse me, is some more threaded bar. I've got some more all threads somewhere. Don't know where it is. No, it appears to have disappeared. Oh, well, never mind. I do have it somewhere. It's probably on the floor under the car because I've used it as an offcut. So I will have some all thread somewhere that I'll put the spacer under here, drill a hole through this, and then the chassis rail, and then go from underneath and drill another hole and bolt it all the way through. What I could do is drill an access hole at the bottom, drill a smaller hole here and put a normal bolt through it with a nut inside the chassis rail, and then either weld a plate on the bottom or put a rubber grommet in there. But I would rather have a big bolt through the entire chassis rail just to hold it in, rather than just the top skin here. Although the top skin's it's double thickness, and it's quite thick. I would rather have the security of having it all the way through the rail rather than just on the top. And that's me. So tell us what you think. Be honest. Be brutal if you need to be. Give us some suggestions if you've got them. Yeah, like I say, like, subscribe. Please visit the Instagram page and the Facebook page and join those as well if you really want to. It's up to you. I'm not going to force you to do it. But like I say, it gives me the impetus to carry on and to keep doing this. Although I'm doing this on a zero budget at the moment, I'm just using up what I have available around me to try and get this done as far as possible, and then we'll go from there. But thank you very much, and I will catch you next time. Thank you.